All right, fourth graders, welcome back. We are looking at Module 6, Lesson 11. Today we are going to be comparing decimals. You will see the decimals written in all different types of forms. You'll be seeing them written as a decimal, as a fraction, and as mixed numbers. So today we're going to take some time to walk through it, and I'm going to give you a couple tricks and hints to help this make a little bit easier. So first, take a look at 1A. Now, trick. Here's a secret that you'll get to see, which makes this easy for you. If you do your work, it'll be easy. So let me show you the trick, okay? I'm seeing different types of numbers presented to me, and I'm not used to seeing that. But I know when I look at my number line, I'm seeing them written as decimals. So what I'm going to do to make this a little bit easier for myself is before I go to try to plot on here, I'm going to turn these into the decimal points to make it easier for myself. So 0.2, I'm good. 1 over 10, we know there's a 0.1. 0.33 is a decimal. I see 100 here, so I know that this is 0.12. 0.21 is good. I see hundredths and a 32, so I am 0.32. Now, all of my numbers are now as a decimal. This little trick will make this very easy, okay? So now we need to plot these numbers onto my number line. And the number line's already drawn for you. You don't even have to do that. We just have to locate them. So let's start with 0.2. Well, guys, it's right here on our number line, so I'm going to put a little dot right there. Now, when you do that, go back up and cross out the numbers that you're using. And I tell you to do that because there's a lot of numbers here and it can get very confusing, okay? So if you crossed out the number, you know it's done, we can move on. So I go to my next one, and we had already changed that into a decimal as 0.1. Well, I'm going to come down here. 0.1 is already on my graph, so I'm going to put a little dot there. And then I'm going to remember to cross this off, so as I'm not getting confused with what I've done and what I've already or need to do. So then I move to my next, 0.33. Well, 0.3, I know I'm starting here, and then I have to go to 3. So 0.31, 0.32, 0.33. I found it, I put a dot, and I'm going back up to cross off. So then I'm going to move on to my next one. We've already converted that fraction into a decimal as 0.12. I know I'm starting over here at 0.1, 0.11, 0.12. And guys, if you want to write these on the line of what you did, that's pretty good too. You don't really have to for the ones that are directly on the data point because it's already marked for you. But these ones that are sitting off, you can definitely mark. It's a great idea. Then we're moving over here. 0.21. Well, here's my 0.2. So I'm going to jump to the next one. That is 0.21. I'm going to write it right next to it so I know that it's there. And I'm going to scooch back up here and cross this off because I know that I already completed that one. My last one, I've turned my fraction into a decimal. Do you see why it was such a nice trick to learn to turn it right into a decimal before? Because I've already done the work. Now I'm just flying. 0.32, I go down to 0.3. I see 0.33, so 3.1, 3.2. Here's my decimal point, 0.32. Cross that off and you are complete. So please continue with this. Make sure you do our little trick of turning our fractions into decimals before you start marking on this line. It makes your work much easier. Now, you can pause if you want to continue working on here. If not, we are going to move down to 2A. Now, you don't see a numbered line down here. You just see a line, and the directions are to put them in order from greatest to least. Okay, so the biggest number goes first, and then you're working your way down to the smaller number. Now guys, just like you did up here, I'm seeing a variety of numbers. I'm seeing mixed numbers, I'm seeing fractions, and I need to turn them all into probably a mixed number because I'm seeing them, but at least into a decimal. Okay, so let's look over at this 2a. My first one is 27 over 10. Well, that's an improper fraction. It should be flashing at me. So I'm going to say, all right, well, how many times does 10 go into 27 without going over? So I'm going to count by tens. 10, 20. I know I can't go to 30. I'm going to get too big. So here is my 2. Now, what's left? Well, I took out 20. I have 7 tenths left. So 7 tenths, I'll write it over here, is what's left. Turning that into a decimal is 2.7. So this number equals 2.7. 2 0 sevenths, I don't have to touch because it's already written in decimal form, so I'm good. 27 over 100, I need to write as a decimal. There is no whole number. I see a 2-digit over a 3-digit, so it is just 0.27 there, guys. So here's that number. Here's this number. 2 and 71 over 100. 2 is my whole number. Decimal point, again, 71 is smaller than 100, so I know I can just write 2.71. So here's that one. 227 over 100. Well, again, improper fraction. This number is larger than the denominator, so I should see some flashing here. Same thing, only we're going to be counting by hundreds instead of tens. So let's count by 100. 100, 200. I know that I cannot go to 300 because my number's not there. So I have 2 wholes here. 2 times my 100 went into 227. And there's 27 left over. So 27 over 100, remember that's what you would have left. Written as a decimal, 2.27. And then 2.72 is already a decimal or a mixed number, so I don't have to worry about it. So I am going to go through now because now that I've done my work, that's a little confusing. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to underline, let me get a crayon, the numbers that I want to look at. So I'm looking at 2.7. I'm looking at 2.07, 0.27, 2.71, 2.27, and 2.72. And guys, the reason why I went through and I did this with a separate color is because for me, this is a lot of work shown on a page, and I'm going to get confused as to what numbers am I even putting on the line. So it might be helpful for you if you have a crayon or a highlighter to just box the numbers in that color so that you know exactly what you want to look at. Now, greatest to least. So 0.27 doesn't have a whole number, so I know I'm not looking there. So let's start by comparing this. 2.7 or 2.0. I know my 2.7 is bigger. Okay, so we're good there. Now, 0.27, it doesn't have a whole number, so we know it's still small. I'm looking here, 2.7 and 2.71. This number is bigger than this number because it has just that extra little 1 there. So this would say this costs $2.70. This costs $2.71. This one would cost more, it's bigger. 2.27, well, the 2 is smaller than the 7, so I can't move on to the next one. 2.72. Okay, so I'm comparing 2.72 and 2.71. 2s are the same, so I can't use them. 7s are the same, so now I'm going to the hundredths place. A 1 and a 2. Well, 2's bigger, so on my line, I'm going to write 2.72 because that's my biggest. And sorry, guys, I am writing upside down, so it might be a little bit different. Just like we did up there, when you are finished with the number, please cross it off. because it will get very confusing if you do not. Now, we know we were comparing 2.72 and 2.71, so my next one would be 2.71. So I'm going to cross off 2.71 because, again, we used it. Now, let's look and see what we have left. 2.7, 2.07. I know 2.7 is bigger than that, so moving on. 2.7 and 0.27 doesn't have a whole number, so I know 2.7 is bigger. 2.7 and 2.227. Okay, well, my 7 is bigger than my 2, so 2.7 is next. And again, remember to cross off when you are finished because it will get confusing if you do not. I have 3 numbers left. I have 2.07, 0.27, and 2.27. Well, I should get myself right here because they both have whole numbers. They're both 2. So I move to the 10th. This is a 0 and this is a 2. I know that 2 is bigger. So 2.27 is going to come next. And again, don't forget to cross that off. I'm going to have to go down to my next line, so just follow along with me. I have 2 left. I have 2.07 and 0.27. This has a whole number, so that's going to be bigger automatically. So here's 2.07, which leaves my last number as 0.27. Now, guys, the biggest thing to remember when you are doing this work, before you try to write anything down, you need to show your work. You need to break these down into a mixed number because it makes it much easier to write on here, okay? Also, box, once you've broken them down into a mixed number, box with a different color so you know what numbers you're looking at. And as you compare them, cross off what you use so you do not reuse a number or forget to use a number. If you have any questions, please reach out to your teacher. And remember to send a completed picture to your teacher as well. Have a great day.